let's say you wanted a 3-fund portfolio, which is a very famous portfolio. It's a lot of people online like the 3-fund portfolio because it's very well balanced, as well as it does well in times of prosperity, but doesn't have as much downside risk. The typical split on a 3-fund portfolio is something like 50% in U.S. stocks, 25 to 30% in international stocks, and then the rest would be bonds. But sometimes bonds for a younger investor is not risky enough. So that's something you kind of have to balance and weigh with yourself. Like if you're a riskier type of investor, you might do more in U.S. stocks because U.S. stocks are probably, they have the greatest potential for upside, but they could also go down too. Same thing with international stocks. Yeah.
And where does crypto, real estate, everything else fall into? Like, how do you
Yeah.
decide about those things? And like even individual stocks, because
Yeah.
Nvidia,
Yeah, I know.
that's like one of the best investments ever.
Yeah, so I think there's this. So we'll talk about how to build wealth because what I just kind of laid out for you in terms of the 3-fund portfolio is a very safe way to compound your wealth. But if you want to build wealth faster, typically you need to take a little more risk, and the more risk could involve individual stocks. It could involve you getting into real estate. It could be that you buy some crypto. But for the general person who doesn't really want to spend too much time investing, the portfolio I laid out earlier is perfect. You might want to add 5% in alternatives like crypto or real estate. You could do that.
But then, so like, because I'm thinking about myself, like, what number do you reach when you start thinking about something alternative? Like, okay, let's say, I don't know, 100K invested in the stock market. Is that the time to think about other things?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I think you can always think about it, but higher numbers better for thinking about other things because the way capital works, if you get 10% on 100K, that's a lot more significant than 10% on $100. So as your numbers and your portfolio balance grows, you can maybe set aside a portion of your portfolio to take higher concentrated risks so that you could try to make more money
But you never
faster.
start with it, right? You start with,
Yeah,
ideally, you start with something that's,
ideally you want to get your base up to at least $100,000, and then you kind of
oh,
from there maybe you take small concentrated bets on things that you believe in. I think the danger of taking big swings when your portfolio isn't at $100,000 already is that you could go to zero again, or it could be really demoralizing. Let's say you get your portfolio up to 50,000, and you spend half of it and you put it into an individual stock that goes down 80%. Then you're kind of right back where you started. Maybe you lost a few years of progress, and that can be really frustrating. So instead, what I like to see people do is get that momentum and keep that momentum going.
just
Yeah.
invest. How often do you check your balance? And how do you do
Oh,
regular investing? What would be your advice? Is it like manually or you can automate it?
you can automate it. So you can do something in your brokerage account or even your Roth IRA or 401k where you contribute a certain amount every interval. So typically every 2 weeks is good. Every month is good too, but that's called dollar cost averaging. You just want to always buy into the market. Typically
Is there a
people
good day? I know for crypto, weekends are good, right?
I don't think there's ever such thing as a good day.
No?
I
Okay.
think it doesn't really matter. As long as you're consistently investing, I think that's more important.
Does it buy into like, so you tell it like every second Monday of the month you buy
Sure.
this,
Yep.
this, and that, and every brokerage can do that?
Most brokerages have that feature, yeah. It's just called recurring investment.
Can you recommend maybe 2 or 3 brokerage apps?
Yeah, my favorite brokerages are probably Fidelity. That's like the biggest kind of one of the most well-capitalized brokerages in the United States. Another one I think that's very beginner friendly that got a lot of hate in 2021 was Robinhood, but they've made a lot of improvements since. You just have to kind of be careful there. It's a little more gamified, so I
And do
feel
they
like
have it automated?
they
And
do have
yeah.
automated. Yeah, you can automate it. And then some other ones like Schwab is fine. M1 Finance is good too. Um, in general, the bigger the brokerage, usually the better.
So you mentioned those different accounts.
Sure.
You mentioned like brokerage,
Yep.
like
Yep.
general investment, 401k, Roth
Mm-hmm.
IRA. So if a person just starts investing
Mm-hmm.
and they're aiming for like 10 years,
Yeah.
would you start a 401k or would you just put it in a brokerage account? Because 401k, you can only start taking out money when you're like 70 something, right?
Yeah, I believe it's I think 401k. Sorry, I get a lot of the accounts confused sometimes, but I'm pretty sure 401k you can start to take contributions out or sorry, your earnings out at 59 and a half. but then they start requiring you to take money out around the age of 70 and a half. I
Yeah,
think that's
well,
required minimum
what's the general
distributions.
because when we started 401k,
Mhm.
and we started only 2 years ago, because
Yeah.
when I was talking to my husband, he's like, why would we just put money there? And like, we're 34, like 33,
Mhm.
we're so active. Why don't we invest in business? Like, why would you invest in 401k? And I have my financial advisor who was like, Marina, you don't understand. Compound interest without
Sure.
tax, that's a write-off for your business. So he's kind of making us contribute every year. But for me, psychology, again, I come from a country where we had so many turmoils where our savings just disappeared. So what would be your general advice? Like, do you start with a general brokerage account or you go straight into tax saving
Yeah,
strategies?
that's a great question. I believe with your audience, which probably a lot of them are non-US based, is my guess, you're going to have a lot of skepticism when it comes to the 401k. That makes total sense. And sometimes it's better to take control of your own destiny and just like take that money and go buy a house with it or buy a rental property with it, and you can tangibly see the money there. I get that too. The reason why the 401k in America is so good is that it's a forced savings mechanism. So it forces people to save that normally wouldn't save. If you're already a great saver, like let's say you save 50% of your income and you are a better active investor or you feel like you can do some business with it, maybe you do that instead. If you need the money in 10 years, like what you just said, then you probably wouldn't invest it in a 401k because
Yeah.
you got to take that money out eventually. And if you put it in a 401k, you're not going to be able to take that money out
But you
for
can
40
borrow
years.
against your 401k or
Yeah, you can
there are
borrow against it. There's
strategies,
some
but it's,
strategies,
yeah.
yeah. But I would say in general, most people, if they need the money before they retire, brokerage is fine. Yeah, you're going to be taxed on it, but that's better than, let's say, paying penalties because you're withdrawing from your
Yeah,
Roth
because the
or
balance is crazy, like
401k.
10% or
Yeah.
plus
hmm
tax. I feel like a lot of people who are watching, they also just moved to the US and they're like starting to realize how complex everything is.
Very complex. Now, the 401k is worth it if your employer gives you the match
Yeah.
because that's just free money.
And also if you have your own business, because that's a write-off.
Yes.
And what I realized, what my CPA told me, once you get your 401k distribution, it goes onto your W-2. So if you're
Oh,
applying for
interesting.
mortgage,
Yeah.
that increases your W-2 income, so it's good for
Oh,
mortgage.
that's good to know.
That was another key takeaway.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.